Welcome, travelers, to the realm where night eternal reigns. Beyond the familiar lands between lies a world both transformed and terrible, a place called Limveld, where shadows dance with violet flame and the very air whispers of calamity. Tonight we embark upon a journey through the complete lore of Elden Ring Nightreign, a tale that branches from the Shattering itself, diverging into darkness unimaginable. Here, familiar lands have been reshaped by forces beyond mortal comprehension, and champions known as Nightfarers stand as the final bulwark against an entity called the Night Lord. This is not the story you know from the lands between. This is a parallel reality born from the same moment of cosmic fracture, yet following a path into deeper shadow. Where once the Tarnished sought to claim the Elden Ring, now the Nightfarers pursue something far more dangerous, the very embodiment of eternal night itself. So settle in, close your eyes, and let us explore this realm of perpetual twilight. Let us discover how the Shattering created not one broken world, but two, and in this second reality, how the night came to reign supreme. Our tale begins where all tales of the lands between must begin, with the shattering of the Elden Ring and the infinite possibilities that moment created across time and space itself. Chapter 1. The Parallel Timeline. To understand Nightreign, we must first return to that pivotal moment that changed everything, the shattering of the Elden Ring. In our familiar tale, this cosmic fracture brought chaos upon the lands between, scattering the great runes and setting in motion the events that would call forth the Tarnished. The Shattering was not merely a political catastrophe or the result of sibling rivalry among demigods. It was a cosmic event of such magnitude that it tore through the very fabric of reality itself. When Queen Marika shattered the Elden Ring in her moment of despair and rage, she unleashed forces that transcended the boundaries of a single world. Imagine, if you will, the moment of impact. The ring that governed the fundamental laws of reality suddenly fractured into countless pieces. But what happens when the cosmic order itself breaks? What occurs when the very foundation of existence splits apart? The answer lies in understanding that reality is far more fragile than we might assume. The Elden Ring was not just a symbol of power or a tool of governance. It was the keystone that held a particular version of reality in place. When it shattered, that reality became unstable, and in that instability, infinite possibilities were born. But what if that moment of infinite possibility created not one timeline, but many? What if the very act of shattering reality itself created parallel worlds, each following their own path through the consequences of that cosmic wound? Consider the nature of fractures in glass. When a window breaks, it does not simply create two clean pieces. Instead, it creates a web of cracks, each branching off in different directions, each following the path of least resistance through the material. The shattering of the Elden Ring created something similar, but instead of cracks in glass, these were fractures in the very structure of existence itself. The connections between Nightreign and the world we know stem from this single moment, the Shattering. Yet from this shared origin point, the timeline of Nightreign diverges completely, branching into a separate reality where different forces rose to power, where different champions answered the call, and where the very nature of the conflict took on a darker hue. Think of two trees growing from the same seed. For a time they share the same root system, drawing from the same soil, sharing the same fundamental nature. But as they grow, environmental factors cause them to develop differently. One may grow straight and tall, reaching toward the sun. The other may grow twisted and gnarled, shaped by harsh winds and difficult conditions. They remain connected at their base, but their branches reach toward entirely different destinies. This is the relationship between our familiar lands between and the reality of Nightreign. Both spring from the same cosmic moment, both share the same fundamental mythology and underlying structure, but the forces that shape their development after the Shattering were entirely different. In this parallel reality, the events following the Shattering unfolded differently. Where our familiar lands between saw demigods warring over great runes, this alternate timeline witnessed the rise of something far more insidious, a calamity that would come to be known as the Night Lord. But what caused this divergence? What factor in this reality allowed for the Night Lord's emergence when our timeline saw, instead, the rise of the Tarnished and their quest for the Elden Throne? The answer may lie in the specific nature of how the Shattering occurred in each timeline. Perhaps in our reality, the fracture created opportunities for individual ambition and heroic action. The scattered great runes became focal points for personal power, leading to conflicts that, while devastating, remained fundamentally about individual agency and choice. But in Nightreign's reality, the Shattering may have created a different kind of vulnerability. Instead of empowering individuals, it may have weakened the barriers between realities, allowing something ancient and patient to finally find purchase in a world that had previously been protected by the ring's cosmic order. This is not merely a different version of the same story. This is a completely separate branch of reality, one where the fundamental nature of the threat facing the world has changed. The director of this tale, Junya Ishizaki, has made it clear that Nightreign's story runs parallel to the world of Elden Ring, existing in its own space, following its own rules, pursuing its own dark conclusion. The word parallel is crucial here. These are not intersecting timelines that occasionally cross paths. They are separate realities that run alongside each other, sharing common origins, but never truly meeting. Like railroad tracks stretching toward the horizon, they maintain their relationship while never converging. This separation allows for something remarkable: the freedom to explore entirely different possibilities within the same mythological framework. In Nightreign's reality, we can see what might have been if different cosmic forces had gained prominence, if different kinds of heroes had risen to meet different kinds of threats. Think of it as a mirror universe, one that reflects familiar elements while transforming them into something entirely new. The geography may echo what we know, the underlying mythology may share common roots, but the path this world has taken leads to a very different destination. This mirroring effect extends to every aspect of the world. Where our timeline saw the rise of the tarnished outcasts, called back to claim their destiny, Nightreign's timeline saw the emergence of the Nightfarers champions, chosen specifically to oppose a cosmic calamity. Where our timeline featured struggles over inheritance and political succession, Nightreign's timeline faces a threat to the very nature of existence itself. The implications of this parallel structure are profound. It suggests that the Shattering was not just a single catastrophic event, but a cosmic branching point that created multiple possible futures. Each timeline represents a different answer to the question: what happens when the fundamental order of reality breaks down? In our familiar reality, the answer was political chaos, heroic journeys, and the eventual possibility of restoration or transformation of the existing order. In Nightreign's reality, the answer is something far more existential, a battle not just for control of the world, but for the right of the world to exist in recognizable form. In our reality, Limgrave stands as the first region tarnished encounter, a land of golden grass, crumbling ruins, and the promise of adventure ahead. It is a place touched by melancholy and decay, certainly, but also by beauty and the possibility of renewal. The light of grace still touches this land, offering guidance and hope to those who would seek to restore the broken order. But in this parallel timeline, that same geographical region has become something altogether more sinister. The very landmass that we recognize as Limgrave exists in Nightreign's reality, but it has been fundamentally transformed by forces that our timeline never experienced. Here, it is known as Limveld, a name that carries undertones of transformation and decay, but also suggests something wilder and more untamed than its counterpart. The suffix veld evokes images of vast, wild spaces where civilization has failed to take root, where primal forces hold sway over the attempts of mortals to impose order. This is not simply Limgrave under a different name. This is Limgrave fundamentally altered by the influence of the Night Lord's Calamity. Every stone, every tree, every breath of air has been touched and changed by the cosmic wrongness that has taken root in this reality. Where once golden light filtered through ancient ruins, casting long shadows that spoke of noble histories and tragic falls, now violet flames dance in the perpetual twilight. These flames are not natural fire, they burn with the cold light of cosmic horror, illuminating without providing warmth, revealing without offering comfort. Where once the wind carried the scent of grass and distant shores, promising adventure and the possibility of discovery, now it brings the sound of relentless rain and the whisper of encroaching darkness. This is not the clean rain of natural weather cycles, but something more like tears from a wounded cosmos, each drop carrying within it the essence of universal sorrow. The ruins that dot this landscape tell different stories than their counterparts in our timeline, where Limgrave's ruins spoke of the rise and fall of civilizations, of the natural cycles of growth and decay that have always marked mortal endeavors. Limveld's ruins speak of something more disturbing, or of the systematic unmaking of reality itself. These structures have not simply fallen to time and war, they have been transformed by cosmic forces, their very stones infused with energies that make them more than mere architecture. They have become focal points for the Night Lord's influence, beacons that pulse with alien purpose and serve as anchors for the spreading corruption. The very air here pulses with the night's tide, described as an encroaching wall of violet flames and endless precipitation. This is not weather as we understand it, but rather a manifestation of the Night Lord's growing influence over reality itself. The night's tide represents something unprecedented in our understanding of how cosmic forces interact with physical reality. It is not simply a phenomenon that affects the weather or the landscape. It is a force that actively rewrites the fundamental rules by which this reality operates. When the night's tide passes over an area, it does not simply change what is there, it changes what is possible there. The very laws of physics, the basic assumptions about cause and effect, the fundamental nature of existence itself becomes fluid and subject to the Night Lord's will. Imagine standing in a place that feels familiar yet utterly wrong. The hills roll in patterns you recognize, following the same basic geography that you know from our timeline. The ruins stand where you expect them to be, marking the same strategic positions and scenic vistas that defined Limgrave's landscape. Yet everything has been touched by an alien malevolence that makes recognition itself feel like a betrayal. The stone itself seems darker, not just in color, but in essence, as if the very matter from which it is composed has been convinced to forget its original purpose and accept a new, more sinister role. The shadows are deeper, but not because of any change in the light source. They are deeper because shadow itself has taken on new meaning in this reality. Where shadows in our timeline represent simply the absence of light, in Limveld they represent the presence of something actively opposed to illumination, not just physical darkness, but conceptual negation. The very ground beneath your feet pulses with an energy that speaks of cosmic wrongness rather than natural decay. This is not the slow organic process of entropy that marks the passage of time in our reality. This is active corruption, deliberate transformation, the systematic replacement of natural order with something fundamentally alien. This is Limveld, a land caught between what it was and what it is becoming under the Night Lord's dominion. It exists in a state of constant transformation, never fully settling into its new form, because that form is itself antithetical to the concept of stable existence. Every day that passes, every tide that sweeps across the landscape, brings new changes that make the land more alien, more hostile to the forms of life and consciousness that once called it home. Yet paradoxically, this same process of transformation is what makes Limveld navigable at all, because the Night Lord's influence creates its own kind of order, albeit one that serves purposes far removed from mortal understanding. What makes this parallel timeline so fascinating is not just that it exists, but how it exists. This is not simply an alternate history where different choices led to different outcomes. This is a reality where the fundamental forces at play have changed entirely. In most alternate history scenarios, we imagine different decisions leading to different results within the same basic framework of reality. What if this battle had been won instead of lost? What if this leader had lived instead of died? What if this discovery had been made centuries earlier or later? But Nightreign represents something more profound, an alternate reality where the basic rules of existence operate according to different principles. The Shattering created not just different historical outcomes, but different cosmic possibilities entirely. The Shattering created infinite possibilities, and in this particular thread of reality, those possibilities gave rise to something unprecedented, a calamity that transcends the political struggles of demigods and touches upon forces far more primordial and dangerous. These primordial forces existed before the Golden Order, before the age of the Tree, before even the ancient civilizations that built the ruins we explore. They are the cosmic background radiation of existence itself, the fundamental powers that were present when reality first began to take shape. In our familiar timeline, these forces remained largely dormant, kept in check by the stable influence of the Elden Ring and the cosmic order it represented. But in Nightreign's reality, the Shattering created an opportunity for these ancient powers to reassert themselves in ways that had not been possible since the earliest days of creation. The Night Lord is not a new entity created by the Shattering. It is something ancient that has been waiting, with patience beyond mortal comprehension, for the barriers that kept it at bay to weaken sufficiently for it to act. In our familiar timeline, the conflict centers around power, inheritance, and the right to rule. The demigods fight over great runes, because they represent legitimate claims to cosmic authority. The tarnished seek the Elden Throne because it offers the possibility of restored order and meaningful governance. These are fundamentally political conflicts. Despite their cosmic scope, they are about who should rule, how power should be distributed, what form of order should replace the broken Golden Order. Even at their most destructive, they remain comprehensible within frameworks of ambition, justice, and the pursuit of legitimate authority. In Nightreign's reality, the conflict has become something far more existential, the battle not for control of the world, but for the very nature of reality itself. The Night Lord does not seek to rule in any conventional sense. It seeks to transform existence so fundamentally that concepts like rule and governance become meaningless. This is not a struggle over who should be in charge. This is a struggle over whether the kinds of beings who could be in charge should be allowed to continue existing in recognizable form. The Nightfarers do not fight for political power or personal glory. They fight for the right of reality to maintain its current form, for the possibility that consciousness and individual identity might continue to have meaning in a universe increasingly dominated by forces that recognize no distinction between self and other, between existence and void. And it is into this transformed reality that the Nightfarers must venture, carrying with them the hope that even in a world where night reigns eternal, dawn might still be possible. They carry not just weapons and skills, but the fragile belief that individual agency can still matter in the face of cosmic-scale transformation. Their very existence represents a form of defiance against the Night Lord's vision of reality. By maintaining their individual identities, by working together while preserving their distinct personalities and approaches, by refusing to be absorbed into the uniform darkness that the Night Lord represents, they embody the possibility that even cosmic calamities can be opposed by beings who refuse to surrender their essential nature. The parallel timeline of Nightreign thus becomes not just an alternate version of events we know, but a meditation on the nature of identity, agency, and hope in the face of forces that seek to eliminate all three. It asks whether individual consciousness has any meaning when set against the vast, impersonal processes that shape reality at the cosmic level, and in the choices made by the Nightfarers, in their willingness to continue fighting even when victory seems impossible. We find one possible answer to that question. That meaning is not something given by cosmic forces, but something created by conscious beings who refuse to accept meaninglessness as the final word. Chapter 2. The Night Lord's Calamity. In the heart of Limveld's transformed landscape lurks a presence that defies easy categorization. This is not a demigod drunk on power, nor a beast driven by hunger. This is something far more fundamental and terrifying, a concept given form, a calamity that permeates the very fabric of the lands between. The Night Lord, even the name itself speaks to the nature of this entity, not merely a Lord of Darkness, but the Lord of Night itself, as if the very concept of eternal shadow had achieved consciousness and purpose. This is a calamity that exists beyond the reach of most mortals, operating on scales of power and influence that dwarf even the mightiest demigods. To understand what makes the Night Lord so profoundly different from the threats we know, we must first consider the nature of lordship itself. In our familiar timeline, lords are beings who rule over territories, who command armies, who exercise power through hierarchies of authority and chains of command. Even the most powerful demigods operate within frameworks that mortals can comprehend, even if they cannot match. But the Night Lord represents something entirely different. It is not a being that has achieved mastery over the concept of night, and it is the concept of night that has achieved a form of independent existence. It does not rule darkness. It is the principle by which darkness rules. This distinction is crucial to understanding the scope of the threat it represents. When we speak of conquering a lord, we imagine defeating an individual, no matter how powerful. But how does one defeat a concept? How does one wage war against an abstract principle that has somehow acquired the ability to act with intention and purpose? The Night Lord embodies the philosophical terror of ideas given autonomous existence. It represents the nightmare scenario in which the tools and concepts we use to understand reality become actors in their own right, pursuing goals that may be entirely incompatible with the continued existence of the beings who originally conceived them. What makes the Night Lord particularly terrifying is not just its power, but its patience. These enormous beings, for there may be more than one, lurk beyond the reach of most mortals. They do not rush into battle like the demigods of our familiar timeline. Instead, they reveal themselves only when their commanders are defeated after 2 consecutive nights of struggle. This patience suggests something far more disturbing than simple tactical calculation. It implies an entity that operates on temporal scales so vast that individual mortal lifespans are barely noticeable. The Night Lord has the patience of geological processes, of cosmic cycles, of the slow heat death of stars. Consider what this means for those who would oppose such a being. In conventional warfare, patience can be a disadvantage. Delay allows enemies to prepare, to gather resources, to rally support. But when your enemy operates on scales measured in eons rather than years, patience becomes a form of psychological warfare that no mortal mind can fully grasp. The Night Lord can afford to wait because it exists in a relationship to time that transcends mortal understanding. Each night that passes, each tide that sweeps across Limveld, each small victory won by its opponents, all of these are merely moments in a vast pattern that only the Night Lord can fully perceive. Think about the implications of this. The enemy they face on the 3rd day is one that has observed their tactics, tested their resolve, and adapted its approach accordingly. This suggests not just power, but intelligence, a calculating malevolence that plans its moves across multiple phases of conflict. But this intelligence operates according to principles that may be fundamentally alien to mortal thinking. The Night Lord's calculations take into account variables that mortal minds cannot even perceive, much less evaluate. Its strategies unfold across time frames that encompass the rise and fall of entire civilizations. When the Night Lord finally reveals itself after 2 nights of preliminary testing, it does so not because it has been forced into action, but because its vast calculations have determined that the moment is optimal for its purposes. The Nightfarers may believe they have earned the right to face their true enemy, but in reality, they may simply be fulfilling a role in a cosmic script written long before they were born. The Night Lord operates through a hierarchy of darkness, sending forth lesser beings to test and weaken their opposition before deigning to appear themselves. This hierarchy is not simply a matter of military organization or delegation of authority. It represents something more fundamental about the nature of how cosmic forces interact with physical reality. Each commander that serves the Night Lord is not merely a subordinate, but an aspect or manifestation of the Night Lord's influence. They are not separate beings who have chosen to serve. They are extensions of the Night Lord's will, expressions of its power filtered through forms that can interact with the physical world. This means that when the Nightfarers face these commanders, they are not simply fighting servants of their enemy, they are engaging with the Night Lord itself, albeit in limited and controlled manifestations. Each victory teaches the Night Lord more about their capabilities, while each defeat serves its larger purposes in ways that may not become apparent until much later. The hierarchical structure also serves to protect the Night Lord from direct assault, while it continues its larger work of cosmic transformation. By the time the Nightfarers have proven themselves capable of defeating the Night Lord's most trusted servants, they may discover that the entity they finally face has grown stronger through the very process of testing them. To understand the Night Lord more deeply, we must delve into the deeper mythology of the lands between and explore its possible connections to forces that existed long before the current crisis. In our familiar timeline, we learned of the Nox, the Eternal Cities, and their inhabitants who committed the cardinal sin of attempting to create a Lord of Night through their own artifice. The Nox were not simply ambitious mortals seeking power, they were sophisticated civilization with deep understanding of cosmic forces and the ability to manipulate reality on scales that approached the divine. Their attempt to create a Lord of Night was not a reckless experiment, but the culmination of centuries or millennia of research into the fundamental nature of existence. The Nox sought to birth an age of stars, to replace the Golden Order with something of their own design. They understood that the cosmic order imposed by the Elden Ring was not the only possible arrangement of reality. They believed that through careful application of their knowledge, they could create an alternative order that would serve their purposes better than the existing system. They failed in our timeline, their cities buried deep beneath the earth as punishment for their hubris. The Lord of Night they sought to create never achieved full manifestation, remaining forever incomplete, forever reaching toward a form of existence that the established cosmic order would not permit. But what if in this parallel reality, they succeeded? The connection between the ancient Lord of Night, sought by the Nox, and the Night Lord that now threatens Limveld is too significant to ignore. The terminology alone suggests a relationship that goes beyond coincidence. Both represent attempts to establish forms of cosmic authority based on principles of darkness and stellar influence, rather than the golden light of the Erd Tree. Perhaps in this timeline, the Nox's forbidden ritual came to fruition. Perhaps their artificial deity found purchase in reality and began to grow beyond their wildest expectations or darkest fears. Perhaps the Lord of Night they thought they were creating was simply the seed from which the current Night Lord has grown. If this interpretation is correct, then the Night Lord represents the ultimate irony of the Nox's ambitions. They sought to create a cosmic authority that would serve their purposes, but instead brought into being an entity whose purposes transcend anything they could have imagined or controlled. The Night Lord would thus be both artificial and ancient. Artificial in the sense that it required mortal intervention to achieve its current form, but ancient in that it draws upon cosmic principles that existed long before the Nox or any other mortal civilization. Or perhaps something even more disturbing occurred. Perhaps the Night Lord that now reigns is not the artificial creation the Nox intended, but something that answered their call, something ancient and patient that had been waiting eons for mortals, foolish enough to create a pathway for its influence. This interpretation suggests that the Nox's ritual was not a creative act, but an invocation. They may have believed they were crafting a new cosmic authority from their own knowledge and will, but in reality, they were simply opening a door that had been locked since the earliest days of creation. The entity that stepped through that door would have origins that predate not just the Golden Order, but the very concept of order itself. It would represent forces that existed in the primordial chaos before reality settled into stable patterns, forces that have been seeking a way to reassert themselves ever since. If the Night Lord is indeed such an entity, then its patience becomes even more terrifying. It has been waiting not just for tactical opportunities, but for cosmic conditions to align in ways that would permit its full manifestation. The Shattering may have provided those conditions, but the Night Lord's influence may have been subtly shaping events toward that moment for far longer than anyone realizes. The Night Lord's influence over Limveld is not subtle. It manifests as something called the Night's Tide, a relentless environmental threat that sweeps through the land as night falls, transforming the very nature of the world it touches. But to call the Night's Tide merely an environmental threat is to fundamentally misunderstand its nature. This is not a natural disaster or even a supernatural phenomenon in any conventional sense. The Night's Tide represents the Night Lord's will made manifest in physical reality, the direct expression of its power to rewrite the fundamental rules by which existence operates. Imagine a wall of violet flame that advances across the landscape with inexorable purpose. But this is not fire as we understand it. This is something far more fundamental. These flames do not burn matter in the conventional sense of chemical combustion consuming fuel. Instead, they burn reality itself, consuming the established patterns of existence and leaving behind spaces where the Night Lord's influence has taken deeper root. The violet color of these flames is significant. Violet light exists at the edge of the visible spectrum, representing energies that push beyond what mortal senses can easily perceive. It suggests that the Night's Tide operates partially outside the normal electromagnetic spectrum, drawing upon forms of energy that conventional physics cannot adequately describe. When these flames pass over an area, they do not simply destroy what was there before. Destruction implies that something once whole has been broken, but broken things can potentially be repaired or replaced. What the Night's Tide does is more fundamental. It convinces reality itself to forget that previous arrangements were ever possible. The areas touched by the Night's Tide do not become empty or broken. They become something else entirely, following rules that serve the Night Lord's purposes rather than the natural laws that previously governed them. Matter continues to exist, but it exists in service to alien principles that transform its fundamental nature. The Night's Tide brings more than just flames. It carries with it a relentless rain that speaks of cosmic sorrow, drops of water that fall not from clouds formed by natural weather patterns, but from the weight of a world being transformed against its will. This rain is not composed of ordinary water. Each drop carries within it the essence of the Night Lord's domain, serving as a vector for the gradual transformation of everything it touches. The rain seeps into the soil, into the stones, into the very air itself, carrying with it microscopic changes that accumulate over time into macroscopic transformations. The sound of this rain is unlike any natural precipitation. It carries within it harmonics that resonate with frequencies below the threshold of normal hearing, creating subsonic vibrations that affect the listener on levels deeper than conscious awareness. Those who spend too long listening to the Night Lord's rain report dreams filled with visions of cosmic voids and mathematical impossibilities. But perhaps most disturbing of all is the tide's relationship to time and space. This is described as a threat that sweeps through a land that changes between each game session, The Night Lord's influence is so profound that it literally reshapes reality on a fundamental level, ensuring that no two encounters with its domain are exactly the same. This suggests that the Night Lord exists partially outside of conventional time and space. Each night that falls, each tide that sweeps across Limveld, represents a new configuration of the Night Lord's will, made manifest in the physical world. The implications of this are staggering. It means that the Night Lord is not simply powerful within the existing framework of reality. It has the ability to edit that framework itself. Each iteration of Limveld represents a different experiment in how reality might be restructured to better serve the Night Lord's incomprehensible purposes. This constant restructuring serves multiple functions. It prevents any opposition from becoming too familiar with the terrain, ensuring that each expedition into Limveld presents new challenges and requires fresh adaptation, but more fundamentally, it represents the Night Lord's ongoing work of cosmic revision. Each reconfiguration of Limveld brings the Night Lord closer to its ultimate goal, not merely to rule over the existing world, but to replace it entirely with something that operates according to principles of its own choosing. The changing landscape is not just a defensive measure, it is active construction of a new form of reality. The randomized nature of these changes also serves to demonstrate the arbitrary nature of physical law itself. By constantly altering the basic parameters of existence, the Night Lord forces anyone who enters its domain to confront the uncomfortable truth that the reality they consider normal and stable is actually contingent and fragile. What makes the Night Lord truly terrifying is not just its current power, but the clear indication that this power is growing. The Night's tide is not a static phenomenon. It is an expanding influence that threatens to eventually consume all of Limveld, and perhaps beyond. Each night that passes, each tide that sweeps across the land, represents another step in the Night Lord's plan to transform this reality completely. The very fact that the landscape changes between encounters suggests that the Night Lord is not content to simply rule over a static domain. It seeks to make the world itself an extension of its will. This process of expansion is not random or chaotic. Close observation reveals subtle patterns in how the Night Lord's influence spreads, suggesting that its transformation of reality follows a grand design that encompasses scales far larger than the immediate geography of Limveld. The Night Lord appears to be working towards some ultimate configuration of reality, some final arrangement of cosmic forces that will serve its purposes perfectly. Each night's tide brings it incrementally closer to this goal, making changes that may seem minor in isolation, but accumulate into something truly transformative. The expanding nature of the Night Lord's influence also suggests that its power feeds on itself. Each area transformed by the night's tide becomes a source of additional energy that can be used to fuel further expansion. The process accelerates as it continues, creating a positive feedback loop that makes the Night Lord progressively more dangerous over time. This means that time is not on the side of those who would oppose the Night Lord. Each day that passes without decisive action is a day in which their enemy becomes stronger, more entrenched, more capable of reshaping reality according to its will. The massive land that changes with each game session is not just a mechanical convenience. It is a representation of a world caught in the process of fundamental transformation. The Night Lord is rewriting the rules of reality itself, ensuring that anyone who opposes it must do so on constantly shifting ground, never able to rely on familiar landmarks or predictable paths. This constant flux serves to isolate and disorient those who enter the Night Lord's domain. Human consciousness relies heavily on spatial and temporal landmarks to maintain psychological stability. By constantly altering these reference points, the Night Lord attacks not just the physical capabilities of its opponents, but their mental and emotional resilience as well. The changing landscape also forces constant adaptation, preventing any opposition from developing long-term strategies based on fixed geographical features. Every plan must be flexible enough to accommodate radical changes in the basic parameters of the environment, making coordination and preparation exponentially more difficult. But the deeper purpose of this constant change is to demonstrate the arbitrary nature of physical reality itself. By showing that the basic features of the world can be altered at will, the Night Lord undermines faith in the stability and reliability of existence itself. It forces its opponents to confront the possibility that everything they consider solid and dependable is actually contingent and temporary. The Night Lord does not work alone. Like any entity of cosmic scope, it operates through a hierarchy of servants and commanders. These beings serve as extensions of the Night Lord's will, testing those who would oppose the eternal night, while serving as gatekeepers to the ultimate confrontation. But this hierarchy is not simply a matter of military organization or administrative convenience. Each level of the hierarchy represents a different aspect of the Night Lord's nature, a different facet of its cosmic influence, made manifest in forms that can interact with physical reality. The commanders that serve the Night Lord are not separate entities that have chosen allegiance to a powerful master. They are expressions of the Night Lord's will, fragments of its consciousness, given temporary autonomy to fulfill specific purposes. When the Nightfarers face these commanders, they are engaging with the Night Lord itself, albeit in limited and controlled manifestations. This means that each victory against the Night Lord's commanders provides it with valuable intelligence about the capabilities and tactics of its opponents. But more than that, each confrontation serves as a form of communion between the Night Lord and those who would oppose it. The commanders serve as conduits through which the Night Lord can study its enemies, not just tactically, but psychologically and spiritually. The existence of these commanders tells us much about the Night Lord's nature. This is not a mindless force of destruction, but a calculating intelligence that understands the value of testing its opposition. By sending forth commanders over the course of 2 nights, the Night Lord forces potential heroes to prove their worth while gathering information about their capabilities and resolve. The 2-night testing period is particularly significant. 2 is the number of opposition, of conflict, of choices that must be made. By structuring its testing over 2 nights, the Night Lord forces its opponents to demonstrate not just their individual capabilities, but their ability to maintain cohesion and purpose across multiple challenges. The first night's commander tests raw capability. Can these mortals actually pose a threat to entities of cosmic significance? The second night's commander tests deeper qualities. Do they possess the wisdom, coordination, and determination necessary to face progressively greater challenges? Only after these preliminary battles, only after the Nightfarers have proven themselves capable of defeating the Night Lord's most trusted servants, does the true threat reveal itself. This pattern speaks to an entity that has learned patience through eons of existence, one that understands that rushing into battle, even from a position of overwhelming power, can lead to unexpected defeat. The Night Lord has observed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, the emergence and destruction of many would-be heroes. It has learned from these observations, developing strategies that account for the unpredictable nature of mortal determination and the occasional capacity of individual will to triumph over seemingly impossible odds. By the time the Nightfarers earn the right to face the Night Lord directly, they may discover that their enemy has been using their victories against its commanders to refine its understanding of how to defeat them. The entity they face on the third night is not simply more powerful than those they have already overcome. It is specifically adapted to counter the exact combination of strengths and tactics they have demonstrated. This creates a paradox for those who would oppose the Night Lord. They must prove themselves worthy of facing it by defeating its commanders, but in doing so they provide it with the information it needs to ensure their ultimate defeat. Victory becomes self-defeating, and the very qualities that make them heroes may be precisely what ensures their destruction. And so the Night Lord waits, watching from beyond mortal reach, as each new group of Nightfarers struggles through the eternal cycle of day and night, gradually approaching the moment when they must face not just a powerful enemy, but the very concept of eternal darkness, given form and purpose. It waits with the patience of entropy itself, secure in the knowledge that time serves its purposes. Each passing moment brings it closer to its ultimate goal, not merely to defeat these particular opponents, but to complete the transformation of reality into something that operates according to its own incomprehensible principles. The Night Lord represents the ultimate test of whether individual consciousness and will can maintain meaning in the face of cosmic forces that recognize no distinction between existence and void, between self and other, between hope and despair. It is the living embodiment of the question, what happens when the universe itself becomes hostile to the very concept of individual identity? In facing the Night Lord, the Nightfarers do not simply fight for their own survival or even for the fate of their world. They fight for the possibility that consciousness itself might continue to have meaning in a cosmos increasingly dominated by forces that seek to reduce all distinction to uniform emptiness. Chapter 3. The Nightfarers, Champions of Opposition. Against the growing darkness of the Night Lord's influence, hope takes the form of chosen warriors, known as Nightfarers. These are not ordinary heroes, driven by ambition or glory. They are champions specifically chosen to oppose the calamity that threatens to consume all of reality. But what does it mean to be chosen for such a purpose? In our familiar timeline, heroes often emerge through circumstance, accident, or personal ambition. The tarnished were called back to the lands between by grace, but their specific identities and capabilities were shaped by their own choices and experiences. They became heroes through their actions, not through some predetermined cosmic selection. The Nightfarers represent something fundamentally different. They are not heroes who happen to be in the right place at the right time, nor are they ambitious individuals who saw opportunity in crisis. They are beings specifically selected by forces we do not fully understand, chosen for qualities that make them uniquely suited to oppose a cosmic-level threat. This selection process implies the existence of cosmic intelligences capable of perceiving the Night Lord's threat and responding to it with appropriate countermeasures. But who or what possesses such awareness? What force in this parallel reality has both the knowledge to understand what the Night Lord represents and the power to choose and empower champions to oppose it? The answer remains shrouded in mystery. But the existence of the Nightfarers themselves suggests that the Night Lord's dominion over this reality is not as complete as it might appear. There are still forces working in opposition to its influence, still sources of power that operate according to different principles, and serve different purposes. The title itself, Nightfarer, speaks to their unique role and reveals much about the nature of their calling. They are not warriors who fight against the night. They are those who travel through it, who navigate its dangers, who understand its nature well enough to oppose it from within. The word fair, in this context, carries multiple meanings. It can mean to travel or journey, suggesting that the Nightfarers are pilgrims on a sacred quest. It can mean to experience or endure, implying that they must suffer through the darkness rather than simply fighting it. It can also mean to succeed or prosper, holding out the possibility that they might not merely survive their journey through night, but actually thrive within it. They fare through the night, not as conquerors seeking to impose their will upon a hostile environment, but as guides leading the world back toward dawn. This distinction is crucial to understanding their role and their methods. They do not seek to destroy the night or eliminate darkness entirely. Instead, they seek to restore balance, to ensure that night and day can exist in proper relationship, rather than having one completely dominate the other. This approach suggests a sophisticated understanding of cosmic balance. The Nightfarers recognize that absolute light would be as destructive as absolute darkness. They fight not to eliminate night, but to prevent it from becoming eternal. They seek not the destruction of shadow, but the return of dawn. Each Nightfarer represents a different approach to confronting an seemingly insurmountable threat, where the demigods of our familiar timeline fought for personal power and inheritance, pursuing individual goals that often conflicted with the greater good. The Nightfarers fight for something far more fundamental, the right of reality itself to exist, free from the Night Lord's transforming influence. This difference in motivation creates a fundamental shift in how they relate to each other and to their mission. The demigods' individual ambitions made cooperation difficult, and temporary alliances formed and dissolved based on changing circumstances and personal advantage. Even when they worked together, they did so with the understanding that such cooperation was strategic rather than ideological. The Nightfarers operate according to different principles. Their shared commitment to opposing the Night Lord creates a foundation for cooperation that transcends personal ambition or individual gain. They work together not because it serves their separate interests, but because their interests are genuinely aligned at the deepest possible level. This alignment extends beyond mere tactical cooperation. The Nightfarers understand that their individual success is meaningless if the collective mission fails. There is no personal victory possible in a reality completely dominated by the Night Lord. Either they succeed together, or they fail together, and failure means not just death, but the erasure of everything that gives their individual identities meaning. These are champions chosen not by birthright or political maneuvering, but by their capacity to pursue the shadowy Night Lords despite overwhelming odds. This suggests that the selection process involved evaluation of character traits that go far deeper than simple combat prowess or tactical intelligence. The ability to pursue shadowy enemies requires specific psychological and spiritual qualities. It demands courage, certainly, but also persistence, adaptability, and the capacity to function effectively in environments where normal sensory information is unreliable or actively deceptive. More fundamentally, it requires a form of faith, not necessarily religious faith, but the deeper conviction that meaningful action is possible even when the ultimate outcome remains uncertain. To pursue the Night Lord effectively, the Nightfarers must believe that their efforts matter even when facing an enemy whose power appears infinite and whose plans operate on timescales that dwarf mortal comprehension. They are entrusted with perhaps the most crucial task in this reality, to stand against a calamity that operates beyond the reach of most mortals. This trust represents not just confidence in their abilities, but recognition of their fundamental reliability in the face of cosmic horror. The phrase "beyond the reach of most mortals" is particularly significant. It acknowledges that the Night Lord represents a category of threat that cannot be addressed through normal means. Military might, political authority, economic power, technological advancement, all of the tools that civilizations typically use to protect themselves are inadequate when facing an entity that can rewrite the basic rules of reality. The Nightfarers must operate in this space beyond normal mortal reach, using capabilities and drawing upon resources that transcend conventional understanding. They must be more than human while remaining fundamentally human, possessing extraordinary abilities while retaining the essential qualities that make their struggle meaningful. What sets the Nightfarers apart is not just their individual skills, but their understanding of the unique challenge they face. Unlike conventional warfare against human or even demigod opponents, their struggle against the Night Lord requires them to undertake challenging 3-day hunts around Limveld, each expedition a carefully structured approach to an enemy that exists partially outside normal time and space. This understanding represents a form of wisdom that goes beyond tactical knowledge or strategic thinking. The Nightfarers have grasped something fundamental about the nature of their enemy, that it cannot be confronted through direct assault or conventional military action. The Night Lord's partial existence outside normal time and space means that traditional concepts of battlefield advantage, superior positioning, or overwhelming force become largely irrelevant. The Nightfarers must develop entirely new approaches to combat, new ways of thinking about victory and defeat, new methods of coordination and communication. Their 3-day hunt structure reflects this understanding. Rather than attempting to locate and destroy the Night Lord through direct confrontation, they engage in a ritualistic process that gradually builds toward the possibility of meaningful encounter. They understand that the Night Lord cannot be forced into vulnerability. It must be gradually drawn into a configuration where opposition becomes possible. This 3-day structure is not arbitrary. It reflects a deeper understanding of the Night Lord's nature, that this entity can only be confronted through a specific ritual of preparation, testing, and ultimate confrontation. The Nightfarers must prove themselves worthy over consecutive nights before earning the right to face the true threat. The concept of earning the right to face an enemy is foreign to conventional warfare. Normally, combatants seek to avoid fighting their strongest opponents until they have achieved maximum advantage. The goal is typically to engage enemies when they are weakest and most vulnerable. But the Night Lord operates according to different rules. It will not engage with opponents it considers unworthy of its attention. The preliminary challenges serve not just to test the Nightfarers' capabilities, but to demonstrate their commitment and understanding. Only when they have proven that they comprehend the true nature of the threat they face will the Night Lord reveal itself for direct confrontation. This requirement transforms the entire nature of the conflict. Victory cannot be achieved through surprise attacks, superior equipment, or tactical brilliance alone. It requires a form of spiritual preparation, a gradual refinement of purpose and understanding that culminates in readiness for cosmic-level confrontation. Each hunt represents not just a mission, but a pilgrimage. The Nightfarers venture into Limveld not as invaders seeking to claim territory, but as spiritual warriors seeking to restore balance to a world caught in cosmic wrongness. The pilgrimage metaphor is crucial to understanding the Nightfarer's approach and mindset. Pilgrims undertake journeys not primarily to reach destinations, but to undergo transformation through the process of travel itself. The physical journey serves as a framework for spiritual development, with each stage of the path presenting opportunities for growth and understanding. The Nightfarers' expeditions into Limveld follow this same pattern. Each day of the 3-day hunt serves not just tactical purposes, but spiritual ones. The challenges they face are not simply obstacles to overcome, but opportunities to refine their understanding of themselves, their mission, and the nature of the force they oppose. This pilgrimage aspect also explains why the Nightfarers cannot simply develop optimal strategies and repeat them indefinitely. The constantly changing nature of Limveld ensures that each expedition presents new challenges that require fresh adaptation and growth. The pilgrimage never becomes routine. It remains a living process of continuous transformation. The spiritual dimension of their mission also provides protection against the Night Lord's most insidious attacks, an enemy that can rewrite reality and manipulate the basic parameters of existence, cannot easily affect beings whose primary strength comes from their inner convictions and spiritual alignment. The Nightfarers' pilgrimage nature makes them partially immune to the Night Lord's attempts to corrupt or control them. 8 distinct Nightfarers have answered the call to oppose the Night Lord, each bringing unique skills and perspectives to this impossible task. The number 8 itself carries symbolic significance across many traditions. It represents renewal, rebirth, and the beginning of new cycles. In some numerological systems, 8 symbolizes the balance between material and spiritual concerns, making it particularly appropriate for warriors who must function effectively in both physical and metaphysical combat. The fact that exactly 8 champions have been chosen suggests that this number was not arbitrary, but represents some fundamental requirement for successful opposition to the Night Lord. Perhaps 8 represents the minimum number of distinct approaches necessary to address the various aspects of the Night Lord's influence. Or perhaps it reflects the number of essential virtues or capabilities that must be present for the mission to have any hope of success. Let us explore each of these champions and understand how they contribute to humanity's final hope, beginning with those whose identities and capabilities have been most clearly revealed. Among the Nightfarers, Welder stands as perhaps the most driven, described as a nomadic warrior, a lone swordsman who pursues the Night Lord with single-minded determination. His very name evokes the untamed wilderness, suggesting someone who has rejected the comforts of civilization to walk a harder path. The name Wilder itself contains multiple layers of meaning. The obvious connection to wild suggests someone who has embraced the untamed aspects of existence, who finds strength in chaos rather than order. But wild in older usage also carried connotations of magic and otherworldly power, suggesting that Wilder's connection to wilderness may involve more than simple rejection of civilization. The spelling with a Y rather than an I also evokes older, more archaic forms of language, implying that Wilder's identity reaches back to traditions and ways of life that predate the current crisis. He may represent a return to more primitive forms of strength and understanding, approaches to conflict that civilization has forgotten, but which remain effective against threats that civilization cannot address. Wilder represents the archetype of the relentless hunter, where others might pause to question or strategize, to gather intelligence or seek advantages. Wilder pursues. His approach to the Night Lord is direct and uncompromising. He has identified his quarry, and he will not rest until the hunt reaches its conclusion. This relentless quality serves multiple purposes within the group dynamic. when other Nightfarers might become paralyzed by the cosmic scope of their enemy or overwhelmed by the philosophical implications of their mission, Wilder provides momentum. His simple, clear focus on the hunt itself cuts through complexity and doubt, providing direction when analysis might lead to hesitation. But Wilder's relentlessness is not mindless aggression. The description of him as a swordsman, rather than simply a warrior, suggests training, discipline, and refined technique. His pursuit of the Night Lord is focused and purposeful, rather than wild or uncontrolled. He has channeled his hunting instincts through martial discipline, creating a combination of primal drive and refined skill. His nomadic nature suggests someone who has already sacrificed everything in service of this quest: home, comfort, conventional relationships, all cast aside in favor of the hunt. This sacrifice is not loss, but transformation. By abandoning the things that anchor most people to ordinary existence, Wilder has gained the freedom to pursue his quarry wherever it might lead. The nomadic lifestyle also provides practical advantages for someone hunting an enemy that can reshape reality at will. Wilder has no fixed base that can be attacked, no possessions that can be used as leverage against him, no loved ones whose safety might compromise his commitment to the mission. He has made himself as elusive and unpredictable as the forces he opposes. There is something profoundly lonely about Wilder's path. He is described as a lone swordsman, suggesting that his pursuit of the Night Lord has isolated him from ordinary human connection. The intensity of his focus may make it difficult for him to relate to concerns and motivations that seem trivial compared to the cosmic threat he has dedicated his life to opposing. Yet this isolation may be his strength. Freed from the distractions that bind others, he can focus entirely on the task at hand. His loneliness is not emptiness, but concentration, the natural result of dedicating oneself completely to a purpose that transcends normal human concerns. Within the group of Nightfarers, Wilder likely serves as the driving force that prevents hesitation or doubt from undermining their mission. When the cosmic scope of their task threatens to overwhelm human understanding, Wilder's simple, clear focus on the hunt itself provides an anchor point around which the others can organize their efforts. In stark contrast to Wilder's solitary pursuit, Guardian embodies the principle of protection. This birdman warrior begins each expedition equipped with shield and halberd, focusing not on aggressive pursuit, but on defensive mastery. The fact that Guardian is described as a birdman immediately sets him apart from purely human champions. This avian nature suggests abilities and perspectives that transcend normal mortal limitations. Birds have always served as symbols of the connection between earth and sky, between terrestrial concerns and celestial awareness. Guardian's avian nature suggests a being capable of seeing the battlefield from multiple perspectives, literally able to take to the air and survey threats from above, but also metaphorically capable of rising above immediate tactical concerns to perceive larger patterns and strategic relationships. Birds are also traditionally associated with messenger functions, serving as intermediaries between different realms of existence. Guardian may serve as a bridge between the purely human members of the group and the cosmic forces they are attempting to influence. His dual nature, part human consciousness, part avian instinct, may allow him to understand and communicate aspects of their mission that purely human minds cannot fully grasp. His passive ability enhances blocking, indicating that Guardian's role among the Nightfarers is to stand firm when others might falter. In a group facing cosmic-level threats, having someone whose instinct is to protect rather than attack provides crucial balance. The choice of shield and halberd as his primary equipment reflects a fighting style that prioritizes protection and controlled aggression over rapid assault. The shield allows him to absorb attacks that might devastate other group members, while the halberd provides reach and versatility for controlled counterattacks. This combination suggests someone who has trained specifically to serve as a defensive anchor for group tactics. But Guardian's protective role extends beyond simple tactical functions. In a mission where the primary threat is cosmic horror that seeks to dissolve individual identity into uniform darkness, having someone whose essential nature is protective serves a deeper psychological function. Guardian represents the principle that individual lives and identities are worth defending, that there are things worth preserving even in the face of overwhelming cosmic indifference. The combination of bird symbolism with protective instincts creates a powerful archetype: the guardian angel, the watcher, the one who shields others from dangers they cannot yet perceive. Guardian may be able to sense threats that approach from dimensions or through methods that human senses cannot detect, providing early warning and protection against attacks that would otherwise be impossible to anticipate. His presence in the group also serves to remind the other Nightfarers that their mission is not purely destructive. They are not simply trying to eliminate the Night Lord, but to protect and preserve something valuable. Guardian embodies what they fight for: Maiji, the principle of care, protection, and the preservation of life and meaning against forces that would reduce everything to emptiness. Within the group dynamic, Guardian likely serves as both tactical anchor and emotional support. His protective instincts would naturally extend to his fellow Nightfarers, making him the member most likely to sacrifice personal advantage for the benefit of the team. This reliability would make him a crucial stabilizing influence in situations where the cosmic scope of their enemy threatens to overwhelm human psychology. Where Guardian protects and Wilder pursues, Irony provides something equally crucial: precision and support from a distance. This archer represents the principle of careful observation and calculated intervention. The name Irony itself suggests unwavering focus and determination. Iron is associated with strength, durability, and resistance to corruption. An eye of iron would be one that never wavers, never blinks, never fails to see clearly, regardless of circumstances. This is not someone who shoots arrows carelessly, but one whose gaze never wavers, whose aim never fails, whose commitment to accuracy borders on the supernatural. The choice of archery as Irony's primary combat method reflects a fighting philosophy based on patience, precision, and strategic positioning. Unlike melee combat, which requires immediate physical engagement with threats, archery allows for distance, observation, and careful selection of targets. This approach is particularly valuable when facing an enemy whose direct influence can corrupt or transform those who come too close. Irony's role as a ranged support specialist makes them particularly valuable in the Nightfarers' cooperative structure. While others engage threats directly, Irony can maintain perspective on the broader battle, identifying priority targets, providing covering fire, and responding to tactical developments as they unfold. The ability to maintain distance from immediate combat also provides psychological advantages when facing cosmic horror. The Night Lord's influence is most powerful in close proximity, where its reality-altering effects can directly affect perception and reasoning. By fighting from range, Irony maintains some protection against these influences while still contributing meaningfully to the battle. Perhaps most importantly, Irony possesses the unique ability to revive fallen allies from a distance. This capability transforms them from merely a damage dealer into a lifeline, the one who can restore hope when all seems lost, who can bring teammates back from the brink without abandoning their strategic position. This resurrection ability suggests that Irony's arrows carry more than simply physical force. They may be infused with life energy, healing power, or other forms of beneficial magic that can counteract the death and corruption spread by the Night Lord's influence. The ability to restore life from a distance implies mastery of forces that operate according to principles opposite to those employed by their enemy. The precision required for such abilities extends beyond mere marksmanship. Irony must be able to distinguish between targets that require destruction and those that require healing, making split-second decisions about when to deal death and when to restore life. This level of discrimination requires not just technical skill, but profound wisdom and understanding of the deeper purposes behind their mission. Within the group dynamic, Irony serves as both tactical overwatch and spiritual anchor. Their ability to revive fallen comrades makes them a source of hope and resilience, someone who can literally bring the team back from the brink of defeat. This capability would make Irony a natural target for the Night Lord's attacks, as eliminating the group's source of revival would significantly improve the enemy's chances of ultimate victory. The remaining 5 Nightfarers have been chosen for this sacred task, though their specific identities and capabilities remain partially shrouded in mystery. What we know is that each represents a different approach to confronting the Night Lord's influence, suggesting that the complete roster of 8 champions encompasses the full spectrum of capabilities necessary for success. The deliberate diversity among the 8 suggests that defeating the Night Lord requires more than just raw power or individual skill. It requires a comprehensive understanding of different combat philosophies, different approaches to problem solving, and different ways of perceiving and interacting with cosmic level threats. Some of the remaining Nightfarers may specialize in magic, drawing upon arcane forces that operate according to principles fundamentally opposed to the Night Lord's influence. Others may focus on heavy combat, serving as additional defensive anchors or providing the raw physical power necessary to break through the Night Lord's more direct defenses. Some may focus on mobility and evasion, using speed and unpredictability to avoid the Night Lord's reality-altering attacks, while striking at vulnerable points in its defenses. Others may specialize in endurance and persistence, providing the sustained effort necessary for prolonged confrontations with an enemy that can afford to be patient. The key is that together, these 8 represent humanity's most complete answer to an incomprehensible threat. Each brings capabilities that the others lack, approaches that the others cannot employ, perspectives that the others cannot achieve. Their diversity is not accidental, but essential, a recognition that no single approach, no matter how perfected, can succeed against an enemy of such cosmic scope and alien nature. What makes the Nightfarers truly formidable is not their individual capabilities, but how these capabilities create powerful synergies when they unite as a team. This is explicitly recognized in their design. While individually formidable, their skills grow even more powerful when combined. This principle reflects a deeper truth about confronting cosmic-level threats. No single individual, no matter how skilled or determined, can stand alone against something like the Night Lord. It requires cooperation, mutual support, and the recognition that each person's strength can compensate for another's limitations, while their combined efforts achieve effects that none could produce alone. The synergistic nature of their cooperation extends beyond simple tactical coordination. When the Nightfarers work together effectively, they create emergent properties that transcend the sum of their individual capabilities. Guardian shields don't just protect Ironi's position, they create a stable platform from which Ironi's precision can achieve levels of accuracy that would be impossible under stress. Wilder's relentless pursuit doesn't just pressure enemies, it creates opportunities and exposures that other team members can exploit in ways that multiply the effectiveness of their individual actions. This level of cooperation requires trust that goes beyond tactical reliability. Each Nightfarer must be willing to subordinate their individual tactical preferences to the needs of the group, confident that their teammates will do the same. They must trust each other, not just with their lives, but with their essential purposes and identities. This cooperative emphasis stands in stark contrast to the individualistic struggles of the demigods in our familiar timeline, where the Shattering led to fragmentation and competition, with each demigod pursuing personal power, often at the expense of others. The Night Lord's threat has created the necessity for true unity. The difference in approach reflects the different natures of the threats involved. The demigods were competing for limited resources: great runes, territories, followers, political authority. In such contexts, one person's gain often meant another's loss, making cooperation difficult to sustain over time. But the Night Lord represents an existential threat that makes individual victory meaningless. There is no personal advantage to be gained if reality itself is transformed beyond recognition. Either all the Nightfarers succeed together, or they all fail together, and failure means not just death, but the loss of everything that gives their individual identities meaning. This shared fate creates a foundation for cooperation that transcends tactical convenience or temporary alliance. The Nightfarers work together, not because it serves their separate interests, but because their interests are genuinely unified at the deepest possible level. The Nightfarers carry a burden that few could comprehend. They have been entrusted with opposing a calamity that operates on cosmic scales, that transforms reality itself, that has already begun to reshape the fundamental nature of their world. This burden is not simply about the practical challenges of their mission, though those are certainly overwhelming. It is about the psychological and spiritual weight of responsibility for the fate of existence itself. Every decision they make, every risk they take, every moment of hesitation or doubt could have consequences that extend far beyond their personal fates. Each expedition into Limveld represents not just a mission, but a confrontation with the possibility of failure on an unimaginable scale. If they fail, it is not just their own lives at stake, but the very nature of reality in their timeline. The pressure of such responsibility would be crushing for ordinary individuals, but the Nightfarers have been chosen specifically for their ability to function effectively under such cosmic pressure. The weight of this burden also serves to unite them in ways that ordinary shared dangers could not. When the stakes are literally infinite, personal conflicts and individual ambitions become insignificant by comparison. The Nightfarers cannot afford the luxury of internal competition or personal rivalry. The cosmic scope of their responsibility leaves no room for anything but complete dedication to their shared mission. Yet they persist. They venture forth into the ever-changing landscape of Limveld. They face the commanders of the Night Lord. They endure the sweeping advance of the Night's tide, all in service of a hope that may seem impossible, that even in a reality where night reigns eternal, dawn might still be achievable. This persistence in the face of seemingly impossible odds represents perhaps the most heroic aspect of the Nightfarers' nature. They continue their sacred hunts, not because victory seems likely, but because the alternative, surrender to cosmic meaninglessness, is unthinkable. Their hope is not based on confidence in their own abilities or faith in favorable outcomes. It is based on the deeper conviction that the struggle itself has meaning, that the refusal to surrender individual identity and purpose to cosmic indifference is valuable regardless of practical results. And so the Nightfarers continue their sacred hunts, each expedition bringing them closer to the ultimate confrontation, each victory over the Night Lord's servants proving that even cosmic calamities can be opposed by mortals who refuse to surrender. In their continued resistance, they demonstrate that consciousness, will, and individual identity possess a form of power that operates according to different principles than cosmic force or reality manipulation. They prove that beings who refuse to accept meaninglessness can create meaning through their very refusal, that heroes who continue to act heroically, even in hopeless situations, transform the nature of hopelessness itself. The Nightfarers represent humanity's final hope, not because they are likely to succeed, but because they embody the principle that some things are worth defending, regardless of the odds, that some values transcend practical calculation, and that consciousness itself possesses a dignity that cannot be eliminated by any force, no matter how cosmic in scope. Chapter 4. The 3-day hunt structure. The Nightfarer's struggle against the Night Lord follows a precise and sacred pattern, the 3-day hunt. This is not merely a convenience of combat, but a fundamental requirement imposed by the very nature of their enemy and the cosmic forces at play. To understand why this specific structure is necessary, we must first consider the nature of time itself as it relates to cosmic entities. The Night Lord exists partially outside conventional temporal flow, experiencing duration and sequence in ways that mortal minds cannot fully comprehend. A being that has witnessed the birth and death of stars does not measure time in minutes, hours, or even years, but in cycles that encompass geological ages. For such an entity, the brief span of a mortal lifetime appears as little more than a flickering moment. Individual human actions, no matter how dramatic or significant they might seem from a mortal perspective, barely register as events worthy of attention. This creates a fundamental problem for anyone seeking to oppose such a being. How can finite creatures hope to gain the attention, much less the serious consideration, of an infinite intelligence? The 3-day hunt structure provides an answer to this seemingly impossible challenge. By extending their approach across multiple days, by demonstrating sustained commitment and escalating capability, the Nightfarers gradually earn the right to be taken seriously as opponents worthy of the Night Lord's direct attention. Each expedition into Limveld represents a complete cycle of preparation, testing, and ultimate confrontation. The number 3 carries deep significance across mythologies and spiritual traditions, representing completion, balance, and the reconciliation of opposing forces. In many mystical traditions, 3 represents the fundamental structure of existence itself, beginning, middle, and end, thesis, antithesis, and synthesis, past, present, and future. The 3-day pattern allows the Nightfarers to align their efforts with these deeper cosmic rhythms, ensuring that their approach to the Night Lord operates in harmony with fundamental principles of existence rather than in opposition to them. The Trinity of Days also reflects the complex nature of the transformation required for successful opposition to cosmic horror. The first day transforms the Nightfarers from ordinary mortals into beings capable of functioning in the Night Lord's domain. The second day transforms them from capable individuals into a unified force worthy of serious consideration. The third day transforms the conflict itself from a preliminary skirmish into a genuine contest with cosmic implications. In the context of the Night Lord's Calamity, these 3 days serve as a ritualistic approach to an enemy that exists partially outside normal time and space. The Nightfarers cannot simply charge into battle against such a foe. They must earn the right to face it through a structured progression of trials. This ritualistic element is crucial to understanding why the pattern cannot be abbreviated or circumvented. Rituals derive their power not from arbitrary traditions, but from their ability to create conditions where normally impossible interactions become possible. The 3-day hunt ritual creates a framework within which mortal beings can meaningfully engage with cosmic forces that would otherwise be completely beyond their reach. The ritual also serves to transform the Nightfarers themselves. Each day of the hunt changes them, refining their understanding of their mission, deepening their commitment to their shared purpose, and gradually preparing them for confrontations that would destroy unprepared minds. By the time they face the Night Lord directly, they are no longer quite the same beings who began the hunt. The first day of each hunt serves as a crucial foundation for everything that follows. During these initial hours, the Nightfarers must navigate Limveld's ever-changing landscape, gathering resources, weapons, and knowledge that will prove essential in the battles to come. This is described as lasting 15 to 20 minutes of intense activity, but in the lore of the world, this represents an entire day of careful preparation. The compression of time reflects the heightened intensity of existence within the Night Lord's domain, where each moment carries weight and significance that would normally be distributed across much longer periods. The Nightfarers must assess the current configuration of Limveld, identify threats and opportunities, and begin to understand how the Night Lord's influence has reshaped the familiar geography. This assessment requires skills that go far beyond simple observation. They must learn to perceive patterns that operate according to alien logic, to identify resources that might not conform to natural laws, and to navigate terrain that shifts according to the Night Lord's will rather than physical principles. The changing nature of Limveld means that no 2 first days are identical. The Night Lord's transforming influence ensures that each expedition begins with new challenges, new configurations of enemies and obstacles, new opportunities for those clever enough to recognize them. This constant variation serves multiple purposes beyond simply preventing the Nightfarers from developing routine approaches. It forces them to remain adaptable, creative, and alert to possibilities that would not exist in more stable environments. It also ensures that each hunt genuinely begins anew, preventing the accumulated familiarity that might make the process feel mechanical rather than spiritual. The unpredictability also serves as the first test of the Nightfarer's worthiness. Beings who require familiar landmarks and predictable conditions to function effectively would be quickly overwhelmed by Limveld's shifting nature. Only those who can find their center amid constant change, who can maintain purpose and direction, even when external reference points disappear, can hope to progress beyond the first day. During this crucial period, the Nightfarers must also begin to work as a team. Individual skills mean nothing if the group cannot coordinate effectively. The first day serves as a proving ground, not just for individual competence, but for the cooperative bonds that will determine success or failure. This team formation process is complicated by the stress and disorientation of operating in the Night Lord's domain. The subtle influence of cosmic horror can erode trust, create paranoia, and make cooperation feel unnatural or dangerous. The Nightfarers must learn to maintain their bonds with each other, even as the environment actively works to isolate and alienate them. Success on the first day requires not just tactical coordination, but genuine spiritual alignment. The Nightfarers must achieve a level of unity that transcends mere cooperation, becoming something approaching a collective consciousness, while still maintaining their individual identities and capabilities. As the second day dawns over Limveld, the true nature of the hunt begins to reveal itself. The Night Lord's commanders emerge to test the Nightfarers' resolve, presenting challenges specifically designed to probe for weaknesses and assess the threat these mortals might pose. The transition from first to second day marks a qualitative shift in the nature of the challenges faced, where the first day tested basic competence and team formation. The second day tests deeper qualities, wisdom, courage, and the ability to maintain purpose when faced with entities that embody cosmic malevolence. This escalation is not random. The Night Lord operates with the patience and calculation of a cosmic intelligence. The second day represents its first serious attempt to understand and counter the Nightfarers' capabilities. The commanders that appear during this phase are extensions of the Night Lord's will, but they are also individuals with their own approaches to warfare. Some may test the Nightfarers' courage through direct assault, others their wisdom through strategic puzzles, still others their unity through attempts to divide and conquer. Each commander represents a different aspect of the Night Lord's nature, made manifest in forms that can interact directly with physical reality. Facing them provides the Nightfarers with their first real glimpse of what they will ultimately confront, while also serving as a form of education in the alien psychology and methodology of their ultimate enemy. The variety of approaches employed by different commanders ensures that the Nightfarers cannot rely on any single strategy or tactic. They must demonstrate flexibility, adaptability, and the ability to recognize and counter threats that operate according to entirely different principles than anything they have previously encountered. Each victory against these commanders brings the Nightfarers closer to earning the right to face the Night Lord itself, but each battle also reveals more about their capabilities to an enemy that learns from every encounter. This creates one of the fundamental tensions of the second day. The Nightfarers must demonstrate their worthiness through victory, but each victory provides their ultimate enemy with intelligence that could be used against them. They must prove themselves while simultaneously protecting the secrets of their strength. The second day thus becomes a delicate balance between revelation and concealment, between demonstrating capability and preserving crucial advantages. The Nightfarers must show enough of their strength to earn respect, but not so much that they eliminate their chances of ultimate success. Only after proving themselves across 2 full days of escalating challenges do the Nightfarers earn the right to face their true enemy. The third day represents the culmination of everything they have learned, gathered, and prepared for. The transition to the third day marks another qualitative shift, this time from preliminary testing to ultimate confrontation. The Night Lord's patience, its willingness to observe and evaluate rather than act directly, comes to an end. The entity that has watched from beyond mortal reach finally steps forward to engage with beings it now considers worthy of its attention. This is when the Night Lord finally reveals itself, not as a distant threat, but as an immediate presence, demanding every ounce of skill, courage, and cooperation the Nightfarers can muster. The enemy they face on the third day is one that has observed their tactics, tested their resolve, and adapted its approach accordingly. The Night Lord that appears on the third day is not the same entity that might have emerged if the Nightfarers had somehow bypassed the preliminary testing. It is a version of their enemy specifically configured to counter the exact combination of strengths and tactics they have demonstrated. This ensures that the final confrontation represents a genuine test rather than a foregone conclusion. The third day battle is not just about defeating a powerful enemy. It represents a confrontation between two fundamentally different visions of reality: the Night Lord's domain of eternal shadow and the Nightfarer's hope for eventual dawn. This philosophical dimension of the conflict is as important as its tactical aspects. Victory cannot be achieved through superior force alone, but requires the Nightfarers to prove that their vision of reality deserves to exist more than the Night Lord's alternative. They must demonstrate not just that they can fight, but that what they fight for has genuine value worth preserving. What makes the three-day hunt structure particularly profound is its cyclical nature. Victory or defeat, the pattern begins again. The Nightfarers must repeatedly prove themselves worthy of confronting the Night Lord, repeatedly earn the right to challenge cosmic-level threats. This repetition might seem frustrating from a conventional perspective, but it reflects deeper truths about the nature of the struggle. The Night Lord is not an enemy that can be defeated once and forgotten. It is a fundamental force that requires constant vigilance, constant opposition, constant renewal of the commitment to resist. Each cycle teaches the Nightfarers something new about their enemy and themselves. Each hunt refines their understanding of what it truly means to oppose a calamity that operates beyond mortal comprehension. The cyclical nature also ensures that victory, when it comes, is truly earned. There are no shortcuts in the struggle against cosmic darkness, no quick fixes for calamities that threaten the fundamental nature of reality itself. Each triumph must be won anew. Each success must be proven again and again. This endless repetition serves as both burden and blessing. It is exhausting to face the same impossible challenge repeatedly, but it also ensures that the Nightfarers never lose sight of the magnitude of their task or become complacent about the forces they oppose. Between these intense three-day cycles, the Nightfarers return to a transformed version of the Round Table Hold. This sanctuary serves not just as a place of rest, but as a repository of knowledge and a center for deeper understanding of their mission. This is described as a long-abandoned version of the familiar meeting place, now host to many secrets and quests. The transformation reflects the parallel nature of this reality, familiar elements reshaped by different circumstances and different needs. The abandoned nature of this Round Table Hold speaks to the isolation of the Nightfarers' mission, where the original served as a gathering place for numerous Tarnished and their allies. This version exists primarily for the 8 chosen champions. It is a lonelier place, but also more focused in its purpose. Within the Hold's library lies a journal where Nightfarers can view their remembrances, both textual records and playable memories that reveal crucial details about their past and their purpose. This system of memory and record keeping ensures that knowledge gained in previous hunts is not lost. The library serves as more than just a storage facility for information. It represents the continuity of consciousness and purpose that the Night Lord seeks to eliminate. By maintaining detailed records of their experiences and discoveries, the Nightfarers create a form of institutional memory that transcends individual mortality. The Round Table Hold serves as proof that even in a reality dominated by the Night Lord's influence, spaces of safety and reflection can still exist. It represents the enduring power of civilization and cooperation, in the face of cosmic threats. But this sanctuary is also fragile, existing only through the continued efforts of the Nightfarers themselves. Should they fail completely in their mission, the hold would presumably fall to the Night Lord's influence, like everything else in this reality. The 3-day hunt structure reveals something profound about the nature of the conflict between the Nightfarers and the Night Lord. This is not a conventional war that can be won through superior tactics or overwhelming force. Instead, it is a spiritual struggle that requires the participants to repeatedly prove their worthiness, their dedication, and their understanding of what they fight for. The Night Lord could presumably unleash its full power immediately, just as the Nightfarers could potentially attempt to bypass the preliminary challenges. But both sides seem to understand that such shortcuts would invalidate the deeper significance of their confrontation. The 3-day pattern ensures that when the ultimate battle comes, it represents a true meeting between properly prepared forces, not a hasty clash driven by impatience or desperation. This mutual respect for the ritual structure suggests that even the Night Lord recognizes the value of meaningful opposition, a cosmic entity that could eliminate all resistance effortlessly would have no opportunity to test and refine its own nature. The Nightfarers serve not just as opponents, but as catalysts for the Night Lord's own development and understanding. And so the cycle continues, each hunt bringing new understanding, each confrontation revealing more about the true nature of both darkness and light, each victory proving that even the most impossible challenges can be faced by those who refuse to surrender hope. The 3-day hunt becomes a form of cosmic dance, a ritualized interaction between forces that could destroy each other if they met without proper preparation, but which instead create opportunities for growth, understanding, and the possibility of meaningful resolution to conflicts that transcend individual mortality. Chapter 5: Memory and Remembrance. In a world transformed by cosmic calamity, memory becomes both blessing and burden. The Nightfarers carry with them not just their skills and determination, but the weight of who they were before the Night Lord's influence began to reshape reality. This relationship between past and present takes on profound significance when facing an enemy that seeks to eliminate all distinction, all individual identity, all trace of what existence was like before its influence took hold. The Night Lord's vision of reality is one of uniform darkness, where individual memories, personal histories, and unique identities are dissolved into an undifferentiated void. Against this threat of cosmic erasure, memory becomes an act of resistance. Every recollection of who they were, every fragment of personal history that the Nightfarers maintain represents a form of defiance against the Night Lord's attempt to reduce all consciousness to uniform emptiness. Each of these chosen champions had a life, a history, a purpose before accepting the call to oppose eternal darkness. Understanding these origins is crucial to comprehending not just their individual motivations, but the deeper significance of their sacrifice. The transition from ordinary existence to cosmic responsibility is not something that happens without cost. Each Nightfarer has had to abandon or transform fundamental aspects of their previous life in order to take on their current role. The memories of who they were serve as both anchor and burden, reminding them of what they fight to preserve, while also highlighting what they have lost in service of that fight. The law of Nightreign recognizes that heroes are not born fully formed. They are shaped by experience, by loss, by moments of choice, that define their character. The Remembrance system serves as a window into these formative experiences, allowing us to understand not just what the Nightfarers can do, but why they choose to do it. This approach to character development through memory reflects a sophisticated understanding of how identity actually works. We are not simply collections of current capabilities and immediate goals. We are the accumulated weight of every choice we have made, every experience we have survived, every moment that has contributed to making us who we are. Within the transformed Roundtable Hold stands a library that serves as more than just a repository of books and scrolls. This sacred space houses a journal where each Nightfarer's past can be explored through a system called Remembrances. The library itself represents something crucial in a world under siege by forces that seek to eliminate individual meaning. It is a space dedicated to the preservation and exploration of personal history, a sanctuary where individual stories can be maintained and understood even as the world outside grows increasingly hostile to the very concept of individual identity. The transformation of the Roundtable Hold from a meeting place for warriors into a library of memories reflects the different nature of the struggle the Nightfarers face. Where the tarnished of our familiar timeline needed spaces for planning tactical approaches to conventional enemies, the Nightfarers need spaces for understanding themselves and their purpose on a deeper level. These remembrances take two distinct forms, each serving different purposes in the larger project of maintaining individual identity against cosmic erasure. Some exist as textual records, written accounts of significant events, personal reflections, or crucial moments that shape the Nightfarer's path to their current purpose. These written memories provide context and depth, filling in the gaps between action and understanding. They serve as permanent records that cannot be altered by the Night Lord's reality warping influence, creating stable reference points in a world where even basic physical laws have become unreliable. The act of writing itself becomes significant in this context. By translating their experiences into words, the Nightfarers create forms of memory that exist independently of their own consciousness. Even if their minds were to be affected by the Night Lord's influence, the written records would remain as testimony to who they were and what they believed. But perhaps more remarkably, some remembrances exist as playable memories and actual experiences from each character's past that can be lived and experienced rather than simply read about. This represents a profound approach to storytelling, one that recognizes the difference between knowing about an event and truly understanding its impact. The existence of playable memories suggests that the boundary between past and present, between experience and recollection, operates differently within the Night Lord's domain. The cosmic forces at play may have created conditions where memory itself becomes more fluid, more accessible, more directly experiential than would normally be possible. This technology, or magic, that allows memories to be directly experienced also serves a crucial function in maintaining the Nightfarers' connection to their essential identities. In a world where external reality constantly shifts according to alien will, the ability to return to and re-experience defining moments from their past provides a form of psychological anchor that cannot be displaced by environmental manipulation. Imagine being able to step into the memories of Welder during the moment he first encountered the Night Lord's influence, to experience firsthand the loss or revelation that transformed him from whatever he was before into the relentless pursuer he has become. Such an experience would provide understanding that goes far beyond simple biographical information. It would allow others to feel the weight of the choice he made, to understand the depth of the commitment he accepted, and to appreciate the full magnitude of what he sacrificed in service of his current purpose. Or to walk in Guardian's memories during the moment he first spread his wings and realized that his protective instincts extended far beyond simple self-preservation, to understand the weight of responsibility that comes with the power to shield others from cosmic-level threats. These experiential memories would reveal not just what happened, but how it felt to live through those moments, what internal struggles were resolved, what fears were overcome, what hopes were embraced. This level of understanding creates bonds between the Nightfarers that transcend ordinary camaraderie or tactical cooperation. These playable memories serve multiple purposes within the larger narrative. They provide character development that goes far beyond simple backstory exposition. They create emotional connection between the Nightfarers and those who follow their journey. Most importantly, they reveal the human cost of opposing something as vast and terrible as the Night Lord. The human cost extends beyond simple physical danger or material sacrifice. Each Nightfarer has had to transform themselves in fundamental ways to become capable of opposing cosmic horror. The memories reveal what they were before this transformation, highlighting both what has been gained and what has been lost in the process. Each memory fragment recovered during expeditions into Limveld represents not just gameplay progression, but the gradual reconstruction of identity in a world that seeks to erase individual significance. The Night Lord's influence tries to reduce everything to uniform shadow, but the remembrances prove that personal history has power even against cosmic calamity. The fragmented nature of memory recovery reflects the trauma of existing in a reality under siege. Complete recollection cannot be taken for granted when facing enemies that can manipulate the basic structure of experience itself. The memories must be actively sought, recovered, and protected against forces that seek to eliminate them. The conversations discovered within these memories often reveal new objectives for the Nightfarers to pursue in Limveld. This creates a beautiful narrative loop where understanding the past directly informs present action. The memories are not just retrospective, they are prophetic, guiding the Nightfarers toward actions that align with their deeper purpose. This connection between memory and mission reflects a sophisticated understanding of how identity and purpose actually work. We do not simply decide what we want to do and then act accordingly. Our actions are shaped by our understanding of who we are, and that understanding comes largely from our interpretation of our own experiences. By recovering and experiencing their memories, the Nightfarers do not just learn about their past, they discover aspects of their purpose that they had forgotten or never fully understood. The memories serve as guidance systems, pointing them toward actions and choices that align with their deepest commitments and values. Consider the implications of this system. In a reality where the very landscape changes between expeditions, where familiar landmarks shift and transform under the Night Lord's influence, memory becomes one of the few constants. The remembrances serve as anchors of identity in a world that seeks to unmoor everything from meaning. When external reality becomes unreliable, internal reality, the accumulated weight of personal experience and individual choice, becomes crucial for maintaining sanity and purpose. The Nightfarers can trust their memories even when they cannot trust their senses, can rely on their understanding of themselves even when they cannot rely on their understanding of the world around them. The remembrance system also suggests that the battle against the Night Lord is not just physical or strategic, but deeply personal. Each Nightfarer brings their own reasons for opposing eternal darkness, their own understanding of what they fight to preserve. These individual motivations when combined, create a force that transcends simple cooperation. The personal dimension of the conflict makes it more than just a struggle between abstract forces. It becomes a battle between different visions of what consciousness and identity should mean, between different understandings of what makes existence valuable and worth preserving. And so, the Nightfarers return again and again to the library, to the journal, to the memories that make them who they are. In a world transformed by calamity, remembrance becomes an act of defiance, and personal history becomes the foundation upon which hope for the future can be built. Each return to the round table hold, each session with the remembrances, serves as a form of spiritual preparation for the next expedition. By reconnecting with their essential identities, the Nightfarers ensure that they enter Limveld not as empty vessels seeking purpose, but as complete individuals who understand exactly what they fight for and why their struggle matters. Chapter 6: Mysteries and Connections. As we delve deeper into the lore of Nightreign, we encounter elements that challenge our understanding of how realities connect and what it means for different worlds to exist in parallel. The appearance of familiar faces in unfamiliar contexts raises profound questions about the nature of this transformed reality and the true scope of the Night Lord's influence. These mysteries represent more than simple curiosities or inconsistencies in the narrative, as they point toward deeper truths about the fundamental nature of existence itself, suggesting that the boundaries between different realities, different stories, and different forms of consciousness may be far more permeable than we have previously understood. The presence of these mysterious elements also serves to remind us that our understanding of the Night Lord and its capabilities remains incomplete. Each unexpected connection, each impossible appearance, each violation of what we thought were the rules of this reality, serves as evidence that we are dealing with forces that operate on scales and through methods that consistently exceed our expectations. Perhaps most startling among these mysterious connections is the presence of the Fell Omen, the entity we knew as Margit in our familiar timeline. But here, in Limveld, this creature serves a different purpose and bears a different significance that challenges our understanding of how entities persist across parallel realities. The Fell Omen appears not as a guardian of Stormvale Castle, standing watch over a crucial passage and testing the worthiness of those who would pass, but as an invasion boss, a roaming threat that can appear during the second day of a hunt to test the Nightfarers in ways they cannot anticipate or prepare for. This represents a fundamental shift in the creature's role and purpose that goes beyond simple relocation or tactical repositioning. In our familiar timeline, Margit served as a teacher disguised as an obstacle, forcing Tarnished to learn patience and preparation before venturing further into the lands between. His placement and behavior were designed to educate as much as to challenge. Here, the Fell Omen serves as an agent of chaos, appearing at inopportune moments to test whether the Nightfarers can maintain their focus and cooperation even when faced with unexpected threats. The educational aspect of the encounter has been replaced by something more purely disruptive, more focused on psychological pressure than strategic instruction. The implications of this transformation are profound. It suggests that the parallel nature of Nightreign's reality extends beyond simple geographical changes or political restructuring. Even entities we thought we understood completely have been reshaped by the different forces at play in this timeline, transformed in ways that reflect the alien influence of the Night Lord. But the transformation goes deeper than simple behavioral changes. The very name has shifted from Margit to the Fell Omen, suggesting that the entity's fundamental identity has been altered. The personal name has been replaced by a title that emphasizes function over individuality, purpose over personality. This change in nomenclature reflects the Night Lord's influence over the nature of identity itself. Where our familiar timeline allows for individual personalities and unique identities, even among powerful entities, the Night Lord's reality seems to reduce individual beings to their essential functions, stripping away the personal elements that make them unique. The timing of the Fell Omen's appearances also reveals something important about how the Night Lord's influence operates. The entity does not appear randomly, but at moments of maximum disruption, when the Nightfarers are already engaged with other challenges and cannot devote their full attention to this additional threat. This suggests a level of coordination and intelligence in how the Night Lord's servants operate. They are not simply independent entities pursuing their own agendas, but components of a larger strategic intelligence that can coordinate multiple threats to achieve maximum psychological and tactical impact. But the Fell Omen is not the only familiar presence that has found its way into Limveld. The reveal trailer and various promotional materials have shown glimpses of other beings from beyond the traditional boundaries of the Elden Ring universe, creatures and characters that seem to originate from entirely different worlds and different stories. Most notably, elements that appear to derive from the Dark Souls universe have been spotted within Nightreign. This raises fascinating questions about the nature of the parallel reality that the Night Lord has created or influenced, and suggests that its power may extend far beyond simple manipulation of a single timeline. The presence of these interdimensional elements creates a sense of cognitive dissonance that may be entirely intentional. When we encounter familiar enemies in unfamiliar contexts, our previous knowledge and experience may actually become disadvantages, leading us to make assumptions that are no longer valid. This disorientation serves the Night Lord's purposes in multiple ways. It forces opponents to question their assumptions about what is real and what is possible. It makes reliable planning difficult when the basic categories used to understand threats no longer apply. Most fundamentally, it demonstrates that even our deepest knowledge and most trusted experience can become unreliable when facing truly cosmic threats. Are these appearances simply artistic choices, familiar assets reused for practical development reasons, or do they represent something deeper about the nature of the Night Lord's influence and its ability to reach across the boundaries between different realities? The sheer consistency and deliberate nature of these crossover elements suggests that they represent more than mere convenience or artistic license. They appear to be integral to the Night Lord's nature and methodology, reflecting capabilities that extend far beyond anything we have previously encountered. If these interdimensional connections are intentional and meaningful, they suggest that the Night Lord's power may extend far beyond the simple creation of a parallel timeline. Perhaps its influence can reach across the spaces between worlds, drawing entities from multiple realities into its domain. This would make the Night Lord not just a threat to a single reality, but a cosmic force capable of destabilizing the boundaries between entirely different universes. The implications of such power are staggering. It suggests that failure to stop the Night Lord in Limveld could have consequences that extend far beyond this single timeline. The ability to reach across dimensional boundaries would also explain the Night Lord's seemingly inexhaustible resources and its capacity to constantly reshape Limveld in novel ways. If it can draw upon entities, energies, and possibilities from multiple realities, then its creative potential becomes essentially unlimited. Alternatively, these crossover elements might represent the Night Lord's method of psychological warfare. By bringing familiar threats into unfamiliar contexts, it forces the Nightfarers to confront enemies they think they understand in situations where their previous knowledge may be worthless or even counterproductive. This interpretation suggests that the Night Lord possesses detailed knowledge of the Nightfarers' past experiences and memories, and uses this knowledge to craft challenges that are specifically designed to exploit their psychological vulnerabilities and tactical assumptions. The appearance of Dark Souls elements in an Elden Ring context creates a sense of wrongness that goes beyond simple surprise or confusion. It suggests that the fundamental rules governing reality have broken down, that the categories we use to make sense of existence no longer apply in reliable ways. This blending of elements from different universes also raises questions about the fundamental nature of reality itself within the broader FromSoftware multiverse. Perhaps the boundaries between different worlds were never as solid as we assumed. Perhaps the various games and stories we know represent different perspectives on a single, larger reality, rather than entirely separate universes. If this interpretation is correct, then the Night Lord represents something unprecedented, a force capable of exploiting these interdimensional connections to draw power and servants from across multiple realities. This would explain not just the presence of familiar faces in unfamiliar roles, but the Night Lord's seemingly inexhaustible resources and its ability to constantly reshape Limveld in novel ways. The mystery deepens when we consider that George R.R. Martin, who provided the foundational mythology for the original Elden Ring, is not involved in Nightreign's development. This creative separation suggests that the story being told here operates under different rules and different assumptions about what is possible within this universe. Without Martin's guiding influence on the deeper mythology, the development team has apparently chosen to explore connections and possibilities that extend beyond the original framework. This creative freedom may be what allows for the integration of elements from other FromSoftware universes, creating a narrative space where previously impossible connections become not just possible, but meaningful. The absence of Martin's mythological constraints also allows for a different approach to cosmic horror and existential threat, where Martin's contributions to Elden Ring drew heavily on political intrigue and human ambition. Nightreign appears to embrace more abstract and metaphysical forms of horror, focusing on threats to the nature of reality itself, rather than threats to particular political orders or social structures. Yet despite these mysterious crossover elements, director Junior Ishizaki has been clear that Nightreign's story should not encroach upon the existing Elden Ring narrative. This creates an interesting tension. How can a story incorporate elements from multiple universes while still maintaining its independence from the core mythology? The answer may lie in understanding that these crossover elements serve thematic rather than narrative purposes. The presence of familiar threats in unfamiliar contexts reinforces the central theme of Nightreign, that familiar realities can be transformed by cosmic forces into something entirely different. The Night Lord's ability to reshape not just landscapes, but the very nature of the entities within its domain demonstrates the scope of its transformative power. When the Fell Omen appears in Limveld, it is no longer quite the same entity it was in our familiar timeline. It has been changed, adapted, made to serve new purposes within a new reality. This transformation extends to more subtle elements as well. The very air of Limveld carries different meanings than the atmosphere of Limgrave. The ruins that dot the landscape tell different stories, Even the concept of night itself has been fundamentally altered by the Night Lord's influence. These mysterious connections serve to reinforce one of Nightreign's central themes, that nothing is immune to transformation when faced with cosmic-level threats. The familiar becomes unfamiliar, the known becomes unknown, and even our deepest assumptions about the nature of reality must be questioned. Perhaps most unsettling is the implication that if the Night Lord can reshape entities from other realities to serve its purposes, then the boundary between different timelines, different universes, different stories is not as secure as we might hope. The Night Lord's influence may represent a fundamental threat, not just to the lands between, but to the very concept of narrative separation between different worlds. This threat to narrative boundaries reflects a deeper horror, the possibility that the stories we use to make sense of existence, the categories we employ to distinguish between different realities and different possibilities, may themselves be vulnerable to manipulation by sufficiently powerful cosmic forces. If the Night Lord can reach across dimensional boundaries to alter entities from other realities, what prevents it from reaching into our own understanding, our own categories of thought, our own ways of making sense of existence? The horror extends beyond physical threat to epistemological threat, the possibility that even our ways of knowing and understanding might be compromised. Yet within this uncertainty lies opportunity. If the Night Lord can draw threats from across multiple realities, then perhaps the Nightfarers can also find unexpected allies and resources. The same cosmic fractures that allow invasion might also permit aid from sources beyond their immediate reality. The mystery of these connections remains deliberately unresolved, creating space for wonder and speculation that enhances rather than diminishes the overall narrative. We are left to wonder whether we are witnessing simple artistic license, deeper mythological connections, or something entirely unprecedented in the scope of cosmic storytelling. What we can say with certainty is that these mysterious elements serve to reinforce the central narrative tension of Nightreign, that this is a reality where the impossible has become possible, where the familiar has been made strange, and where the very foundations of existence are subject to forces beyond mortal comprehension. The true nature of the Night Lord remains partially hidden behind these mysteries. Each crossover element, each familiar face in an unfamiliar role, each impossible connection serves as another piece of evidence that the threat facing the Nightfarers operates on scales and through methods that defy conventional understanding. And perhaps that is precisely the point. The Night Lord is not meant to be fully comprehensible. It is a cosmic force that transcends the boundaries we use to make sense of reality. The mysterious connections within Nightreign serve as constant reminders that when facing such entities, our assumptions about what is possible must be constantly re-evaluated. The Nightfarers venture forth into this transformed reality, carrying not just weapons and skills, but questions that may never be fully answered. They face not just a powerful enemy, but a mystery that challenges the very foundations of what they believe about the nature of existence itself. And in facing these mysteries, in confronting these impossible connections, they demonstrate perhaps the greatest heroism of all, the willingness to act in defense of reality, even when reality itself has become uncertain. They fight not just for what they know to be true, but for the possibility that truth itself might continue to have meaning in a cosmos increasingly dominated by forces that recognize no distinction between fact and fiction, between reality and nightmare, between existence and void. In the end, the mysteries and connections within Nightreign serve as reminders that heroism is not about understanding everything or having all the answers. It is about continuing to act with purpose and conviction, even when the fundamental nature of existence has become questionable, about maintaining hope, even when hope itself has become mysterious, and about defending meaning, even when meaning has become one of the casualties of cosmic conflict. And so we reach the end of our journey through the complete lore of Elden Ring Nightreign. We have traveled together through the cosmic fractures of the Shattering, witnessed the birth of parallel realities, and explored a world where night reigns eternal, under the influence of forces beyond mortal comprehension. We began by understanding how a single moment, the shattering of the Elden Ring, could create not one broken world, but two entirely different realities. We discovered how Limgrave became Limveld, transformed by violet flames and cosmic rain into something both familiar and utterly alien. We explored the nature of the Night Lord itself, not merely a powerful enemy, but a concept given consciousness, a calamity that operates on cosmic scales with patience measured in eons. We learned of its hierarchy of commanders, its reality-warping night's tide, and its ability to reshape the very foundations of existence according to its incomprehensible will. We met the 8 Nightfarers champions, chosen not by accident or ambition, but by their capacity to oppose forces that exist beyond the reach of most mortals. From Wilder's relentless pursuit to Guardian's protective instincts, from Ironie's precision to the mysterious capabilities of their 5 remaining companions, we discovered how individual strengths combine into something greater than their sum. We delved into the sacred structure of their 3-day hunts, understanding how this ritualistic approach allows mortal beings to meaningfully engage with cosmic threats. We explored the transformed Round Table Hold and the power of remembrances to preserve individual identity against forces that seek to reduce all consciousness to uniform void. Finally, we confronted the mysteries and impossible connections that suggest the Night Lord's influence may extend across multiple realities, drawing elements from different worlds into its domain, while challenging our understanding of what boundaries truly exist between different forms of existence. Throughout this exploration, we have seen how Nightreign represents more than just another story within the lands between. It is a meditation on the nature of identity, consciousness, and hope when faced with forces that operate on scales beyond human comprehension. It asks whether individual will and cooperative purpose can maintain meaning in a cosmos that seems increasingly hostile to the very concept of meaning itself. The Nightfarers continue their eternal hunts, each expedition bringing them closer to understanding both their enemy and themselves. They fight not because victory seems certain, but because the struggle itself has value, because the refusal to surrender individual purpose to cosmic indifference creates its own form of meaning. In their story, we find reflection of our own capacity to maintain hope and purpose, even when facing challenges that seem impossible to overcome. They remind us that heroism is not about having all the answers, but about continuing to act with conviction even when the questions themselves become overwhelming. As you drift towards sleep, perhaps you will dream of violet flames dancing in eternal twilight, of champions who refuse to surrender even when facing the impossible, of the enduring power of individual stories to resist forces that would reduce everything to uniform darkness. The night may reign in Limveld, but dawn remains possible as long as there are those willing to fight for it. The Nightfarers venture forth again and again, carrying with them not just weapons and skills, but the hope that even in realities where night has become eternal, the possibility of morning still exists for those brave enough to pursue it. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the lore of Elden Ring Nightreign. Now, as our tale draws to a close, settle back and enjoy the crackling fire and the ambient rain in the distance. Let these gentle sounds carry you toward peaceful rest. Rest well, travelers, and may your own dreams be filled not with cosmic horror, but with the quiet satisfaction of stories well told and mysteries pondered in the peaceful darkness of natural sleep. Good night.